the fee what we're reading in Rabbi Nachman, we can understand that if a person can always transcend the situation, a person can always think above, and a person can always, in one instant, Rabbi Akiva was crying and he said, look, we see that a person just from one moment of tshuva and masim tov, a person could be kona kol chaya olam haba, just from one moment. That means that if you can grasp yourself every day and transcend the situation, you're like online for the bank, you're like, I don't know, you're in Everfresh trying to buy some groceries, you're like, I don't know, you're in the middle of a business deal, I don't know, it could be somebody's pressuring on the phone, some family members like, yeah, you got to do this errand, and you're starting to bug out. If you could hold yourself and transcend the makom, that's what Rabbi Nachman is saying. If you could transcend that makom, then you're tying into this whole inyan of Mekom Shel Olam, and you're tapping into the Borei Yisbarach, to the light of the Or Ein Sof, in such a deep way, in such an unbelievable way. Sometimes, sometimes this has to be done in a deeper way. Sometimes Hashem wants you to be a real plunger, if you know what I mean. Not like just like somebody that he dives, but somebody that could go to the bottom. That if you could go into the Chadri Chadarim of yourself, and sometimes a scenario might present itself that it's going to be very hard for you. And it's really like it's pushing against your ego in such a way that you feel like it's a very dangerous situation. That's the real test. That if we could control ourselves and we could remember this message, maybe we have to put reminders. Maybe we have to have like a little note or something that we look at time to time during the day, to remember that everything's a Kadosh Baruch Hu, not to be phased from the scenario. That's what all these tzaddikim went through. All these tzaddikim that were constantly in situations, it's like they were in this like seret, as they say. They were like going through scenarios, they were like a projector. They're the character's there, and you wind it, and he goes through all these different, like the old video games, and that's what it is. You're going through scenarios. So how are you going to handle this one now? If you could just keep your cool, if you could just remember Makom Shel Olam, like this is not, I don't have to be phased from the situation. Think above. A person can think above. It's hard, but through, I believe, really, that's why Hitzbodedut is so important. People can be like, listen, how am I going to do it? This guy's driving me nuts. That guy, you're in a car, some guy cuts off a guy, people like the guy, you want to kill that guy. He just cut me off. Like, I can't believe the chutzpah. You see the way he drives? One of the hard things for me is sometimes I'm in a rush, and it just happens to be that on that day there's some really old lady that just comes right in front of the car, and I'm just like, Yishtabach Shemo, I'm just like, I'm just like, you could touch my skin, you could feel the heat coming out. It's mamish, can you transcend? Excuse me, but how the heck do you expect to transcend? The way you can train, if every day you maintain the Hitzbodedut, you speak to Hashem, you get it in your head that Hashem, you're in the Makom Shel Olam. There's people in the world, I'm telling you, I saw them in situations, and they're just like, sababa, sababa, ma baya. They're like, it's cool, it's all, everything's kol tova, I wish I could do that, but because guys like this, they've been doing Hitzbodedut for the past 15 years, every day, an hour. Every day they speak to Kadosh Baruch Hu, and Hashem, everything's you, I believe in you, and they're besimcha, and Again, now we have to mention certain foundations in Breslov, really for Judaism, right? That this principle that Rabbi Nachman says that mitzvah gedola liot besimcha tamid, right? Constantly, we're supposed to be besimcha. Okay, and it's very important because why? Why is it so important? You come to a Breslov, you're like, well, what's the big deal? You guys stress simcha like it's like it's Torah Misinai, So he says that. When you learn this Svarim, you realize Rabbeinu said that there is a time that you're allowed to have. Rav Maimon spoke about this last week. Yeah. That to have a leiv nishbar, to have a broken heart, there's a place for that. If a person wants to get into yearning and davening in such a way, that he's really he's not chasrom, not sadness, but this brokenheartedness. There is a place for that, and it's called hitzbodedut. It's called if you set aside an hour, that time you set aside to be with Kadosh Baruch Hu, and you really want to get into those emotions, fine. But he says, but the rest of the day, you're supposed to be besimcha. And besimcha means simply besimcha. You have to be, put a smile on your face, be happy, besimcha. You know what I mean? You can crack a joke, this, that, whatever it is. Rabbi Nachman says, even if sometimes you have to be silly a little bit, it's fine, go for it, do it. You have to be besimcha, you know what I mean? Chas v'shalom, we don't mean to get into improper things. A person has to be careful, But to be besimcha, and it's very important, because if a person's not, then when the scenario presents itself, then it's like the negativity. It's like a growing weed inside of a person, and it starts to grow out into the situation that you're in, and then you're like, oh, you see, that's what happened, and then the negativity continues. If you're besimcha, you're more calm, you're more relaxed, you can handle the situation, right? If you've done your hitzbodedut, so you're balanced, you're ready. You had an exit for that aspect inside of yourself, for that emotional venting that you needed to do. So now you could be calm. Now you can be more miyushav, more settled. And more settled means that when the situation presents itself in front of you, you're going to think with your seichel. And you're going to look at the seichel in the situation. This is the nekuda really that I want to speak about, is that Rabbi Nachman says in the first Torah Aleph in the Likutei Moharan, that ki isha Yisraeli tzarich tamid listakel behaseichel shebachol davar. That a Jew, a isha Yisraeli, has to constantly look at the seichel in every situation. So when something presents itself to you, and it's a tremendous barrier, right? So what do you have to do? You have to think with your head, because your emotions are kicking. Your emotions you want to vent in some way, or you want to get into something. You want to yell, but if you could think with your seichel, if you could stop yourself and be like, what's the right thing to do? Or really, you could really hear it. Your seichel is giving you messages. When you're going through a situation that's like tough, the seichel is giving a message. There is some sort of, like a text that comes through your head that says, really, you shouldn't make a big deal about it, right? Let's say, or really, and you hear that. If you're not in control and your heart's like flaring up, then you're not going to have a shalom between the mind and the heart. But if you are settled, and if you are able to process that message and let the moach be sholet on the leiv, that the heart could have a control over the emotions, then you can come out of the situation, And B'ezrat Hashem, I think it's with the practice of it every day by day that a person can beg Hashem to have this connection between the mind and the heart. Some people say that's why the Hasidim, they don't wear ties. The minute came, they never wear ties, because in order that the mind and the heart should always be connected. There should never be something like, mind and the heart should be connected. There's a big inyan of that. One Rebbe said, he was crying, he was doing tshuva, and he said, you should know the distance between my mind and my heart is like the distance between here and like Italy, like thousands and thousands of miles. What was he saying? He was saying that I want to connect this and this together. We go through scenarios in life, and if you could stop yourself, you realize, where is this impulse coming? Is it coming from here? This is saying one message. This is saying this. This is right and that's wrong. This is saying, just go for it. That's here. It's not here. If you can make in harmony between here and here, then you can have an aspect of shalom. Then you can have an aspect of the Beit HaMikdash Shel Mala and the Beit HaMikdash Shel Mala coming together, right? There's a Beit HaMikdash Shel Mala. There is a Beit HaMikdash Shel Mala. There's a Beit HaMikdash up in the heavens. Can it parallel down to the Beit HaMikdash Shel Mata, to the Beit HaMikdash of your heart? If you can do that, then it's Geula already. Then it's Mashiach, right? Like some tzaddikim say, you should live in the world as if Mashiach came already. What does that mean? You have a harmony between the mind and your heart. And the purpose of meditation and Tzbodedut is really to get to that level. So maybe we'll stop here for discussions or shailot or whatever. If anybody